Hi there, I'm Kevin O'Connor, and welcome back to Ask This Old House. Hey, Tommy.
Hey, Kevin, how are you?
All right, so we're going on a field trip today here.
You and I are going to go to the home center. You know, homeowners are always trying to dress up their rooms using different moldings. Well, there's a lot of different choices out there off the shelf, so you don't have to get custom. I'm going to show you how to pick a crown molding or a baseboard molding.
All right, I can't wait.
All right.
And Rich is going to go on his own field trip, too. He's going to take a $50 plumbing part, and he's going to use it to save a homeowner 8,000 gallons of water in 1 year. It's an incredible story. But first, Roger and the finer things in life.
Cardinals, blue jays, black-capped chickadees, and nuthatches. If you want some of those in your backyard, you're going to need a couple of these. Tia, bird watching and bird feeding is a hobby that's growing tremendously.
Absolutely. There's no question about it. It's the fastest growing hobby in the country, I believe. And one of the most important things to think about is what we're doing. A lot of people have the misconception that by feeding the birds, we're creating a situation where they'll forget how to forage on their own, and that's not true. Or that we're preventing them from migrating, and neither of those things is true. This is just supplemental feeding for them. We do it because we want to look at them. They're so engaging to watch when they're feeding at your feeders.
So we're just bringing them closer to the house so we can see them.
Absolutely.
So what's your number one recommendation for seed?
My number one recommendation for seed is this black oil sunflower seed. It's the seed of preference of virtually all of the birds that would be in your backyard.
So what type of bird would eat that?
That would be your chickadees, your titmice, woodpeckers.
And here we have a really fine seed.
We have a very fine small seed for the finches and the siskins, those beautiful yellow gold finches. That's called Niger. A lot of people call it thistle, but it's not thistle.
No.
It's something different.
Now, what do you think of these mixed seeds?
Mixed seeds are, the trouble with mixed seeds is that almost all the birds, what they're after is that black oil sunflower in there, and they're going to throw the rest of it on the ground, and it's going to be waste.
Now, I remember as a youngster actually boiling down fat and using that as a feed.
Absolutely. Here it is. Here's a suet cake. So now it's gotten commercialized, but it's really easy to use, and it's animal fats of various kinds. Sometimes there's peanut butter and other things in there. Very high energy food.
It's great because it comes in this cage. It just flips open. You drop the cake in and hang it in the tree.
Hang it in the tree, and you'll get all kinds of birds, particularly woodpeckers.
That's just what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Now, if you wanted someone to get started, what feeder would you have them get?
Okay, I think the simplest kind of feeder is just your basic tube feeder. You can get it in any size that you want. The important thing are these metal casings around the holes to keep those squirrels out.
Right. I've seen plastic ones that the squirrels literally eat their way in so they can get at all the seed.
Absolutely. This has got a number of perches. A lot of different birds can come and eat here at the same time.
And that would go on a hanger?
You'd have to hang it, exactly. And hang it on a tree or a branch, or I would recommend some kind of a hanger that you can place where you can see it in a good location for the birds.
Right, that's the advantage of a hanger as opposed to using a tree.
Now
here you have another feeder, but it's inside a cage.
Right, here we have the tube feeder, but inside a cage. And the cage keeps out the squirrels and the big birds like the starlings and things like that we really don't want to encourage.
So you get chickadees and smaller birds
Absolutely, flitting in there, and they're just cute as buttons.
Now you have another tube feeder over here, but has very small holes in it.
Right. This is the Niger feeder. You couldn't put Niger in those feeders with the big holes; it would just fall out. So this is again those finches, those beautiful gold. You can certain times of the year this could just be covered with
yellow finches.
Yep.
And
absolutely.
Over here, a cage with a seed in it.
And this is for the clinging birds. The little birds like a nuthatch that like to feed upside down, and then this platform allows birds that like to stand.
So some of them will literally grab right on there while they're feeding.
Absolutely.
And over here you have a little wooden structure.
Right, this is a platform feeder, and this is good for larger birds that like to come in and land rather than sit on a perch. The cardinals, the blue jays, those just gorgeous, colorful birds.
They're always striking in the
Always
winter.
striking, lively. Some people think they're noisy, but what the heck.
Now, what I've done is seen these put down lower. In fact, on my deck, I built one,
right.
And the blue jays and the cardinals will cover it up.
Right, and this is raised up like this purely to accommodate this squirrel baffle, keep the squirrels from eating off the platform.
Right, because they'll come up and they'll just empty this feeder of all the sunflower.
So if you've got a lot of squirrels, you want to consider the idea of squirrel baffles. I don't mind feeding squirrels to a certain extent, but if you're being inundated with squirrels, then you have to discourage them somehow. This is a classic round baffle that would go on the bottom on a pole. If you're hanging from a tree, you'd have a round baffle above. The squirrels can't get around it. This baffle is too low. An enterprising squirrel could jump right up.
But if he did and he came up the pole, he'd be stuck by this baffle.
This is a belt and suspenders here.
Yeah, now this is a new type that I just found, and this actually has a battery operated, and when the squirrel jumps up on it, it spins and throws him right off. Doesn't hurt him.
Doesn't hurt him, but throws him off, exactly. And so the squirrel has no chance to grab any seed. A small little bird, like a chickadee, could land here and not engage the spin.
Perfect. Must confuse the squirrel.
I bet it does. I've never actually seen what they... Uh-oh.
But the real limiting factor is water.
Is water. If you put out water for your birds, they'll you'll just have a tremendous array of birds if you can put out water. It's probably more important than feeding. It definitely is more important than feeding. Around here in the winter, problem is most of the water's frozen, and even the bird bath will be frozen. So we'd use a heater in here to
Yeah,
keep
you
this
just
open.
set that heater in the basin. It'll keep it open.
And there are heaters specifically for bird baths because it's very shallow.
That's right. You only want an inch or two of water. If it's deeper
Exactly.
than that, the birds won't come.
That's correct.
Well, thank you for all the great information, Tia. I look forward to watching the birds.
Thanks for coming, Roger.
Kevin, I thought we'd talk a little bit about moldings, on where they're used or how they're used and what materials they're made of.
Okay, and no shortage of choices in this place.
There's a lot of choices. Let's start off with this crown molding right here. Now you're looking at a piece of red oak that's clear. You'd either clear coat this or stain it.
Probably the most expensive option, and no point in putting paint on this because you want to see that wood.
Exactly. Here's a piece of clear pine. It's long, it's clear, and you would stain this or clear coat this also.
And by clear, you mean there are really no knots in it. It's a nice clean length of continuous pine.
Right.
That's going to be a little less expensive than the oak, correct?
Exactly. Now here's a piece of clear pine also, but it's primed. If you look on the back, it's actually made up of little pieces of pine that are finger jointed together.
Gotcha.
What they do is they cut out all the imperfections and glue the short pieces together.
Paint it, and we'll cover up those joints, and that's going to be a little bit less expensive still.
Now here's another option right here. This is MDF. Comes in long lanes. It's very stable. All right. But it's primed and should be painted.
Gotcha. Medium density fiberboard. And what's this one right next to it?
Well, this is a polymer. It's about the same price as a medium density fiberboard. You can put this up just as it is. It's considered pre-finished, but you can also stain it or paint it.
Gotcha. All right, so those are the species. Let's stick with the crown molding and talk about where they're going to go and what they're going to look like.
All right. Let's grab that piece of wallboard right there.
Here's
and
our
this
wall.
This is a cross-section of a larger piece of crown molding that we just looked at.
Yeah, pretty standard profile, right?
Right? It would go on the wall like that and up against the ceiling.
Comes in different sizes and different profiles.
A lot of different profiles. Well, let's say I have a piece of crown molding like that and I want to dress it up a little more. I could take a piece of baseboard, flip it upside down, put it on the wall, put the crown on top of
Look
that.
at that. That's pretty nice.
Add a little more profile, a little more detail.
I like it. Okay.
All right? Now, we talk about baseboard. Traditional baseboard is square edge, different heights.
And as simple as you can get.
Right. Now you can take a piece of base trim and drop it on top and really dress it up.
Gotcha. Okay, so that's a two-piece build-up right there, base and base cap.
Right. Again, this can be stained, come in different species of material also. Now here's a piece of primed pine. The molding is actually milled into the piece.
So base cap and base are one piece.
Right. You can get a different width, also wider. This is called speed base. Goes down as one piece.
Gotcha.
This is the piece that we use underneath the crown molding. One piece. This is wood.
Simpler profile.
Right.
Now, let's talk about, was it shoe molding?
Shoe molding would go down on top of the base.
Sometimes used to cover up the gaps between the base and the floor.
Right. Now, some people use a piece of quarter round. This is a different size quarter round. This is kind of bulky, I think. It's too heavy. You could use a smaller piece of quarter round, but what I like is the actual piece of shoe molding. It's taller than it is thicker.
Gotcha, and that's going to just go right down
Right on
here
top. That
between the
hides
floor
that
and the
gap.
base cap, and not such a
Right.
bad look either.
Now, let's talk about chair rails.
All right, let's bring our wall back here.
We have a piece of profile right here that you can put right flat on the wall. You can designate the height where you want it. You can go around the perimeter of the room.
And here it is an oak of different species. And oftentimes people would paint this in a different color down below versus the wall going up.
Sometimes you can actually take a flat molding and put it around the room and make up little panels also.
Gotcha. And if you don't like panels, sometimes you see people use a bead board, which is
Bead board.
applied right here.
But you're going to have a bad edge there at the top.
All right, so you wouldn't want to put the flat on there.
Well, if you did, it's a lot of work. You'd have to make a piece and fill it and sand it. A lot of work. They
Gotcha.
actually make a molding like this with a rabbet off the back to accept the thickness of the panel and hide that gap.
Gotcha. Now, I use this bead board in my house, and I use the bullnose to cap off the top.
Yeah, you can take a piece right here. This is a piece of bull nose. It's actually also known as a window stool molding.
Gotcha.
All right, you can take a small piece of crown or bed molding. Looks like crown, it's bed. They can go right up underneath there like that, and you can make up your own cap.
Yeah, all right, so not too bad looking.
Yeah.
How about windows? What do you got for us on the windows?
All right, I think the most common that people see today is a 2.5-inch colonial. Comes in different widths, different 3.5, 4.5.
A lot of new
Mitered
houses
corners.
with that profile
Yeah,
right there.
yeah.
Yeah. And that's
Quick-
a miter, obviously,
Quick
right?
way to trim a window, but a lot of people don't like the miter. So you could use this profile. It's a larger trim. Obviously, it's going to cost more than the colonial that we just used. But you can use the rosettes in the corners, square cuts, goes up nice and easy.
Yeah, and that's a pretty good look right there. All right, Tommy, lots of options. Thanks.
My pleasure.
All right, boys. This is a plastic cylinder with a ball inside. See it going back and forth right there? Clear at the bottom, white at the top. What is it?
Yeah.
Piece of cake.
No,
Yeah?
it's not.
Yep. It's a sports bottle with a reusable ice cube.
You use a sports bottle.
Reusable ice cube.
Yeah.
It's like a
Take
ball.
look?
Yeah, let's take a look.
You just take this out of your drink,
It's a ball.
put it in the freezer.
Yeah.
It gets cold.
Okay.
Put it back in your drink. Slide it together. and ow, that hurt.
Maybe it'll have some
What are
sense
you
in
putting
you.
in the sports bottle there? Milkshakes? No, you got it all wrong, Roger. This is what got me through childhood.
Really?
Hell yeah. When you grew up on the mean streets like I did.
Maplewood?
Yeah, you needed to
You
do a
and
couple
Opie.
things to get by. You know, win a couple bucks, 3-card Monte with the boys, or the old shell game. Ready to play, Tommy?
Yeah, I know.
All
Follow the
now
ball,
watch.
Tom. Follow the ball. Watch it. Watch it now.
I'm going fast, but you got to pay attention to find out where the ball is. Ed, go.
All right, this is probably a trick game because I can see it here, so I'm going to guess there.
You think so, huh?
Yeah. Oh, I told you it was a trick.
One more time. Now I'm going to follow the ball. Go slow. Hang on. All right. Where is it?
You see, I still think it's a trick. I can't see it there. So it's probably there.
No.
Sorry, guys.
No.
This actually has a real use, not stupid
does?
uses like you guys do.
Stupid.
All right, I saw this at the hardware show.
Oh, yeah?
It's a great show. Now, you're in the shower, and sometimes if you have a straight shower curtain, the curtain's a little close. For some people, you know what I mean? Now, you could put a curved shower rod in, but that requires you to drill through the tile, and it can get expensive. With this thing, you can actually convert a straight shower rod to make it perform like a curved one. Watch this. Tip it forward. Watch the ball come.
Hey, look at that.
Now, I got some room to dance in here.
Please don't dance.
Hey, it's curved like you are.
Yeah, bulging on one side.
Get out of my shower. Get out of here.
Come on in, Richard.
All right.
You would not believe my water bill.
How much?
It's about $1,000 a year.
That's not cheap.
I'm trying to bring it down. I've got a low-flow toilet upstairs, and over the summer I just put in a high-efficiency washing machine.
Good.
But the last guzzler is in this bathroom down here, and I'd like your help with it.
All right.
I've got the original toilet to the house when we moved in about 20 years ago. It's 3.5 gallons per flush.
That's right. You know, a week ago I came out here. I put this water meter in right here, just temporarily. And you can see that your family used about 330-something gallons on this toilet alone in 7 days. That's just under 50 gallons a day. So what I want to do is I want to keep this toilet, but convert the insides to a modern dual flush.
That sounds great.
All right. Now, to save water, we could just change out this whole toilet to a modern 1.6 gallon per flush toilet, but that gets expensive. This device is about $25 and allows us to convert the existing toilet to a dual flush. Now, just pull that tank cover for me, would you? Now, here's the issue. Every time we hit this tank lever, the full contents of that tank leaves. It's 3.5 gallons and goes down through the bowl. And that doesn't matter whether we're trying to eliminate solids or liquids. Now, this toilet was designed that we still need to have 3.5 gallons to effectively eliminate solids from the bowl. So we can't change that. But we can use less water when we're flushing liquids. So with this, we'll have two buttons. One button will lift and allow about 1 gallon down through the bowl. And this will be for solids. And that's going to save a lot of water.
So I'll only be saving money on the liquid flush.
That's right, but about 80% of the time that you flush a toilet, it's actually to eliminate liquids, all right?
Okay.
So it starts by turning off the water right here. All right, I want to eliminate the water from the tank, and once that's gone, disconnect this flapper down at the bottom. It's the black thing that opens every time we flush. And I also want to disconnect the chain from the tank lever. Good. And now, to remove the tank lever out, it's one of these types of plumbing where it's not righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. It's actually a left-handed thread. So I'm going to take the pliers and go this way, which normally would tighten it, but now it loosens it. And once the nut is off, I can remove the tank lever. Now those are all the parts that we have to remove. Now it's time to install the new flush valve. Now this has a blue gasket at the bottom that's going to sit down where the old flapper used to be, and that's going to make a permanent seal. And now the flushing action is going to happen inside this flush valve, up and down. Now on the side, there's a bracket which is going to attach to this vertical overflow tube right here. Now that's going to slide right down and hold that gasket down at the very bottom in the perfect position. And once I get it into position, I'm going to snug it up with this cable tie on the side. But I'm not going to snug that up yet. Now this unit, instead of a tank lever, has a button, actually two buttons, one for liquids and one for solids. And to connect that to the tank, I break it apart right here. Back this off. This actually turns out to be a right-handed thread. Now I hold it in place. I want the button for the liquids to be on the top. I'm going to just snug the nut up. And then reconnect on the back. Now I just want to tighten up my cable tie. All right, now we can turn the water back on. Now, this tank is going to refill with 3.5 gallons of water. You're going to need every bit of that every time you flush for solids. But when we're going with liquids, we can actually use much less. And we use this top button right here. All right, it's about to shut off right now. All right, now watch. When I hit that button, You can see the level drops, but it drops by much less. It only goes down by about a third, and that's going to save you a lot of water. Hey, Joel, I got good news and I got bad news. We are definitely using less water from the tank right here, but the bowl doesn't flush properly all the time. The water is not getting high enough down in the bowl. I made a couple of marks right here. This is the line where the water should come to flush
Right,
properly.
that's where it used to come up to.
And we're only coming up to this point quite often. So there's not enough water in the bowl. And let me show you here. Inside this tank, there's the flush valve that we changed, and this is the fill valve, and that brings water back in. It does two things. One is to bring the right amount of water into the tank, but it also, through this thing called a refill tube, the water comes here and goes down to refill the bowl. Now, because we have less water leaving the tank, it means this fill valve is on for less time, and not enough water is refilling that bowl.
So what are we going to do?
Well, actually, the manufacturer makes a fill valve designed for just this purpose. You can see right here that has a valve that can be adjusted so we can have more water go to refill the bowl while the tank is filling. So it means we're going to change this fill valve out.
Okay.
All right, let's give it a try, Joel. I'm going to flush for liquids right here with the top button. All right, water comes from the tank down to the bowl, swirls the way it's supposed to, and that's a proper flush. All right, now let's just review what we've done so far. Here's your actuator right here. This top button is for liquids, and that's the most common use of a toilet, and that uses much less water. The bottom button is for solids, and that uses the same 3.5 gallons that you've always used before. The actuator connects over here to the flush valve. The flush valve lifts to allow the water to leave the tank and go down to the bowl. And here's our fill valve right here. As the water rises, you can see the float coming up, and the water will refill into the bowl right here, and we've adjusted that valve. So let's see how we're doing. Just about to shut off, right at the line.
That looks great.
You're going to save a lot of water. But to find out just how much, I'm going to leave that meter in place, all right? Keep an eye on it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to keeping track of it for you and letting you know. Thanks
right.
so much, Richard.
All right, my pleasure.
Well, you promised some big savings. How'd you fare?
Well, before we got there, that toilet was using about 50 gallons a day. And after we left, it was about 25 gallons a day.
Wow,
We
so
cut
you
it in half.
cut it in half.
Absolutely.
That's great.
And that around here with his water rates, that's probably going to be just under $100 a year in water he'll save.
All right, so you can save $100 a year, but you did have to spend some money to retrofit that toilet. What did that cost you?
Well, the hard goods, the flush valve and the fill valve were about $50. All right, so in about 6 months we pay that back and we'll save a lot of water. And the alternative would have been a brand new toilet that might have been $250 or $300.
So this is a great solution. I mean, you can really see why people are going for dual flush
That's
toilets.
right.
It's a compelling story.
A lot of people are working on it too. I just saw this the other day. This has a little cable right here, and this can mount on the side of any toilet.
Yeah.
You get half flush or full flush, and if you hit it the right way, you can open your garage door too.
A bonus. Now, what about the old-fashioned way of saving water? You put the brick in the back of the
Yeah,
tank.
I mean, people still try to do this. You put a brick down here. This is called a dam that will hold some water back. This is a
Yeah.
new thing I just saw right here, which has a water bag. But all these devices are trying to either hold back or displace water, so less water leaves the tank down into the bowl. And I'm not a big fan of these because toilet bowls are engineered for a certain amount of water to make them flush effectively. This is a cutaway of what's called a siphon jet toilet. The tank sits right here. When it flushes, the water comes down into this flush rim. Let me just tip it down. You can see there's holes right underneath here.
Right.
So now the water comes down on top of this bowl right here. And now you need to create a siphon. To have a siphon, you need to have a short leg, which is the water goes up this leg right here.
Yeah.
It goes up over the hill, and now it has to have a long leg as well. So the water comes down here and starts to create a siphon. If not enough water goes up the short leg, it won't have a siphon.
So it might work for the liquids, but it might
Right.
not create enough pull to clear the solids.
That's right. You might save some water, but not if you have to flush twice.
Gotcha. All right. Well, you are saving water and saving money, so
Right.
good news. If you got a question about your house, we'd love to hear from you. And until next time, I'm Kevin O'Connor
I'm Rich Trethewey.
for Ask This Old House. And you and me sharing the toilet.
Hanging out.
If you have a question about your house or a tip you'd like to share, please let us know. Visit our website, pbs.org, for expert advice, step-by-step videos, and much more. Next time on Ask This Old House, Roger gets to the root of plant propagation,
Gonna dip this into the, we're gonna do some hormone, knock off any surplus.
and Tom lends a steady hand to a shaky newel post.
What we need to do is push this newel post back into position.
That's next time. This Old House magazine, the companion to the television series, provides advice from our experts that you've come to know. You can use your credit card to order 10 monthly issues for $10 by calling 1-800-221-5900.